Eastern Illinois head coach Chris Wilkerson, the team coming off a 14-13 win over the number 25 ranked Illinois State in the Mid-America Classic. Back at home this week, McNeese is coming to town to take on the Panthers, who undefeated against FCS opponents this year. So, Coach, thoughts on your team, and we'll go to some questions.
Yeah, thanks, Kyle. Certainly proud of the guys' effort. They kept believing. Most importantly, we had a ton of different players step up. It was nice to get JT back in the passing game as far as wide receivers go. At the end of the game, MJ Flowers was phenomenal. Even Chad Strickland was down at some point in the second half, and Jonathan Ariano stepped up. All four defensive tackles I've talked about, Terrence Simon and Jaron Hacha, Alton Jefferson, and Drake Van Hefty, shouldering the load inside with our two starting defensive tackles out. And, one of our corners, Scotty McMillan, was a guy that stepped up in crunch situation when Russ Dandy was down. And certainly Julian Patino being in for Stone to bang that last extra point through. But, real pleased with their effort and the next man up mentality, their belief, and our improvement. But we've got a lot of things to correct. And certainly our focus is now completely on our next opportunity. And that's playing a very, very talented McNeese State team that'll come to Charleston this week. We're 0-3 lifetime against McNeese. And I was part of all three of those games. I was a redshirt freshman standing on the sideline in 1990 when they came here, and they beat us in a real tough knockdown drag out affair. And I was part of a game in 1993 down there that was ugly, to say the least. They beat the tar out of us. And then last year, certainly as the head coach, we went down there and be honest with you, we got bullied around the yard. So, hey, we've got a lot of things to correct, but we're excited about being able to play at home this week.
Thanks, Coach. We'll go to some questions. We'll go to Dan first. Dan, as many as you got, feel free to go ahead.
Yeah, you talked about the defensive line play, and I know we talked about that Saturday after the game. What's the status of Lewis and Smith right now?
TBA, day by day. They're getting better, but it remains to be seen. So I would say right now they're doubtful, but we'll have to wait and see how the week goes.
And you mentioned all four guys. If you could just I'll just throw a name out there and you comment a little bit more on them. So I'll start with Terrence Simon.
Yeah, so Terrence Simon Jr. is a guy that he plays really hard. He's not super tall, but he's strong and compact. He's quick and sudden, great with movement, and gives us phenomenal effort. Going way back to his days, he was a running back at one point in time during his football career. But an awesome guy, always has a smile on his face, plays really hard, and I know he's always going to be ready when his number's called.
Let's go to Alton Jefferson.
AJ is another one of those guys. Always has a smile on his face. Twitchy, active, certainly has paid his dues here, has had some ups and downs. And I think he wanted to play a little bit more in game one and game two. And he had a great opportunity this last week, and he showed that he's ready to go. And so, again, I think the competition or the depth provides a little more competition, and competition makes us all stronger. So super excited about AJ's progress.
And Drake Van Hefty, I know, officially there wasn't a sack against Illinois State, but he got a nice pressure on Annexstad.
He did. And, it was nearly a forced fumble. It was ruled obviously a forward pass, and so it was an incomplete pass. But Drake's a guy that we've always known as tough as a boot, and kind of a tweener. He does a lot of things for us. He plays in the kicking game, can play on the edge for us if needed, and can certainly play on the inside. But, one of the toughest guys on the team, kind of super quiet, goes about his business, just, always, again, ready when his number's called.
And then finally, Hacha.
Yeah, Hotch is phenomenal. Just, toughness, pride, a guy that, is very humble and works his tail off. He's one of the strongest players in our program, and talk about a guy that'll do anything. Hotch was asked to play offensive guard at the end of last year when we were so banged up, and hadn't done that since, early in his high school career, and was our starting guard, or one of our guards, against UTM on the road in the last game of the season last year. But just a phenomenal guy, bleeds blue, and I love having him as part of our family.
Turning to McNeese now, you mentioned, your words that you kind of got bullied down there last year. I know McMahon, that running back, excuse me, that was so successful against you last year, he's off in the CFL now. But what do you see? I think their record's a little deceiving, and obviously they played Florida, one of those games.
Yeah. No, I know Coach Goff very well, and he's done a very good job and won everywhere he's been. He's won at Tiffin, he's won at Valdosta, and certainly he, started the turnaround last year at McNeese, and they run the football very efficiently. I know they have a new offensive coordinator, but the head coach is very involved in the offensive side of the football. Their quarterback is very athletic. He can break you down with his feet or his arm. They're big and physical up front, I think that's how coach wants his football teams to look. And they've got long athletes on the perimeter. And they do have great depth to get in the backfield. So yes, McMahon is off in the CFL and was phenomenal and shredded us last year. But they've got 3 quality backs, including, a guy that we recruited from one of the Mississippi junior colleges that had a 90-yard kickoff return this season for a touchdown. So they've got some guys. And I know that, like I said, they're not where they want to be either. I'm sure they'll be ready. I have no question in my mind that they'll be ready when they get here this weekend.
Do you see one element of the game being in the key matchup more than another, or not necessarily?
Yeah, everybody has their battles, and again, our defense is going to have their hands full, as I talked about their offense, but offensively, again, we've got our hands full. We've had some guys shuffling in and out, played 3 different lineups on the offensive line. We've got more depth, so guys that continue to step up when their number's called, but we gave up 8 sacks last week, and these guys come in and they're going to be very similar to the last 2 weeks, moving in and out of 3 down and 4 down spacing. They're big and physical up front. Their linebackers are very active. They're long and athletic in the secondary, but it's a 3-3-5 or a 3-4 presentation or a 3-2-5, whatever you want to call it. But again, I know that they're, they'll play split safeties. They've got some interesting wrinkles in terms of coverage. But our offensive line is going to have their hands full. And in the kicking game, they're number 1 in the nation in kickoff return and certainly in the top 15 in net punt and they've got a great punt returner as well. So we need to continue to improve and focus on ourselves and get ourselves ready to go for 202 on Saturday.
I have one more for you, and then I'll turn it over to Kyle. Any other injury updates that you want to share?
No, everybody's got their bumps and bruises, and we've got some guys that are questionable, I guess, for this weekend. And we'll see where we're at when we get to Friday, a little bit later in the week. But I know that any player that happens to be injured, that the next person has continued to step up and be ready. And that's what we pride ourselves on, the whole we, not me thing. Some guys certainly want to play more, and that's okay. But if they're not getting those opportunities, we told them, you make sure you prepare yourself because you're one play away from being a starter or playing a lot more than you thought you would. And that's just continues to be our mindset.
Coach, take me through a little bit the game-winning drive, and just you kind of get the length of the field. And when points were hard to come by, just finishing that off and getting that winning score. Yeah.
So, 2-minute drills is something that we practice often during preseason camp, during spring practice. Every week we hit it. And we change the situations. Typically we got to go a different distance. And are we up 3? Are we down 3? Are we down 6? Do we need a touchdown? Do we need a field goal? What's the situation? But, certainly Pierce was phenomenal. But like I said, there were some guys that really, really stepped up. Jonathan Ariana was a guy that was playing left tackle and played some of his best football yet. He has played for us in the past, but was in there in a critical situation and answered the bell. MJ Flowers caught some nice checkdowns and was very understanding of the situation and getting out of bounds. But we had 1:32 on the clock. We were at our own 7-yard line. So we had to go 93 yards and with no timeouts, and we did it in 1 minute and 2 seconds. And so, I think Pierce has a very good understanding about, hey, we got to get a first down or 2. That hopefully slows down the pass rush just a little bit, but you still got to take what they give you. At some point, you need a little bit of a chunk play. And we got ourselves down there and still looked like we had plenty of time. You can't take a sack without any timeouts. The last play, I know Pierce has talked about this, but he saw something and adjusted the backside of the combination and, made a throw and gave the guy a chance and he caught the football. So it was a very efficient drive. Things that you talk about and that you practice, and it kind of all came to fruition. So, you just got to be ready when those situations come up. And that's our situational awareness, I think, is better this year, or situational football as a team. Defensively, after sudden change last week, we didn't allow any points. Our 3rd down defense was pretty good. We were 10 out of 12 stopping our opponents. And so we've really, like I said, the first year focused more on connection and building relationships. And I think our football IQ and situational awareness as a program has taken a massive step forward. And that's to be expected in year 2. So we're just going to keep grinding, and it's just the next opportunity this week. We got a lot of things we want to correct, but excited about a chance to play at home.
Last question, we'll let you go. You beat a rival we talked about last week. You beat a team that has a number ranking in front of it, which was not always important, but what does that mean after you win the game? I know it's just another win; they're all the same, but to beat a rival and beat somebody who's ranked to kind of give some validity to what you're doing this year.
We talked to the players a little bit last week about at some point in time when there's a change in leadership or a change in culture in every program, there is what people refer to as a signature win. And that was a great opportunity for us last week. And it remains to be seen if it truly was that. It was a great win. I'm never going to shy away. It's hard to win football games. I was so happy to watch the players, especially the seniors, be able to hoist that trophy and have a moment to enjoy themselves for the hard work that they put in and have a result to validate some of that work. But what remains to be seen is if it truly is one of those, program changing signature moments for us, it'll be about how we respond this week. So, hey, we got to get back to work and a lot of things that we got to correct. And it's just the next opportunity in a long season, a marathon.
Perfect, Coach. Appreciate your time this morning. Best of luck this week, and we'll talk to you again next week.
Thanks, Kyle. Thanks, Dan. Go Panthers.